Dr. Madison Kent's life unravels when an urgent call to help a sick child leads her to a shocking discovery. Her husband Adam, a respected attorney, is hiding secrets she never could have imagined. As Madison digs deeper, she's faced with painful truths that threaten her marriage, her family, and the future they had planned. Can love survive when trust is shattered? Will Madison and Adam find a way to rebuild? Or will the past prove too heavy to overcome? Stay tuned for this powerful story of forgiveness, family, and resilience. If you enjoy stories that pull you in and leave you thinking, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Now let's dive into the story. Virginia mornings held a quiet beauty that Madison Kent had come to cherish. The dawn was gentle, soft light filtering through the branches of the maple trees that lined her street. Madison sat on the porch of her modest home, sipping coffee and feeling the stillness settle around her like a comforting blanket. Her husband, Adam, had left early for a business trip, and though she missed his presence, she welcomed the rare silence. As a physician, moments of calm were few and far between, and Madison was grateful for this brief pause before her day of patients and rounds began. She closed her eyes, savoring the warmth of the coffee and the quiet, but her phone interrupted with a loud, unexpected ring, pulling her back to reality. She glanced at the screen and saw the number from the on-call line at her clinic. She felt a familiar jolt of adrenaline, the response that had been trained into her over years of medical practice. Madison quickly answered, her voice steady and professional. "Dr. Kent here," she said, already anticipating the urgency in the voice on the other end of the line. "Dr. Kent, I'm sorry to call so early, but we have an urgent case," said the voice, breathless with tension. A young girl, 5 years old, showing severe respiratory distress. Her guardian requested that a doctor come immediately. "We've been trying to reach the family physician, but we can't get a hold of anyone else nearby." Madison felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "Is an ambulance on the way?" The guardian insisted on in-home care. "I can't say why, but they seemed adamant." Madison's instincts told her there was more to this story, a complexity beyond a typical emergency. She had learned to trust those instincts over the years. After confirming the address, she quickly gathered her medical kit, shrugged into her coat, and headed to her car. The familiar motions grounded her, filling her with a calm sense of purpose. As she drove, her mind wandered to Adam, wondering if he had landed safely at his destination. His work as an attorney often took him away, and though Madison supported his career wholeheartedly, she couldn't ignore the faint ache that grew in his absence. But she had no time to dwell on it now. Her mind was already shifting to the case, preparing for what she might encounter. The house she pulled up to was nestled on a quiet street, with large trees stretching over the driveway, creating shadows that made the early morning light feel dim and subdued. Madison parked and approached the door, her senses on high alert. Before she could knock, a woman in her 30s with a frazzled appearance opened the door. "You must be Dr. Kent," the woman greeted, her relief palpable. "I'm Elena, Lila's caretaker. Thank you so much for coming." Madison nodded, scanning Elena's face. "Where is she?" "Follow me," Elena said, guiding Madison through a narrow hallway lined with framed photographs, their colors faded with age. The house had an air of quiet loneliness, as though its occupants were used to the world overlooking them. Madison's footsteps slowed as she noticed a shadow at the end of the hallway. A man stood there, silhouetted against the dim light streaming from a nearby window. She stopped, blinking, her mind racing as she recognized the figure. "Adam," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her husband turned, his face pale and drawn, his eyes shadowed with fatigue and something she couldn't place, something close to shame. "Madison, I didn't expect you to be here." Her mind reeled. He was supposed to be on a business trip hundreds of miles away. Yet here he was, in this strange house, his expression caught somewhere between shock and regret. Madison took a steadying breath, grappling to keep her composure. "I should be the one asking why you're here," she replied, her voice strained. "You were supposed to be out of town." He shifted uncomfortably, casting a glance down the hallway toward the room where the girl must have been. I'll explain everything. But right now, Lila needs you. With a shaky exhale, Madison nodded, setting aside her swirling questions. She would face them later. Right now, there was a child in need of her help. Madison's training took over as she entered the small bedroom. The air inside felt thick, heavy with the smell of medicine and something intangible, a sadness that seemed woven into the fabric of the room. On the bed sat a small girl, her frame almost swallowed by the blankets wrapped around her. Lila's large brown eyes were clouded with fever, and her breathing was labored, her small chest rising and falling with effort. "Hi, Lila," Madison said softly, kneeling beside her. She forced a gentle smile, wanting to convey warmth and calm. "I'm Dr. Madison, and I'm here to help you feel better, okay?" The child nodded weakly, her gaze drifting to the side where Adam stood, watching with a look of quiet intensity. Madison pushed the thought of him from her mind, refocusing on her patient as she listened to Lila's heartbeat, feeling the faint and uneven rhythm beneath her fingertips. As she examined Lila, her eyes were drawn to a small mark on the girl's neck, just above her collarbone. A birthmark, dark, shaped almost like a crescent moon. Madison felt a strange prickling sensation along her spine. It was a birthmark she had seen many times before, just not on Lila. It was identical to Adam's. Madison's pulse quickened, but she forced herself to remain calm. Her fingers moved to the small vial in her bag, drawing up a dose of anti-inflammatory medication. She spoke soothingly to Lila, watching the girl's eyes flutter closed as her breathing evened out slightly. But as Madison administered the dose, Lila flinched, a red rash blossoming along her neck and arms almost immediately. Madison froze, her mind racing. The reaction was instantaneous, an allergy to a common medication, the same rare allergy Adam had. Her thoughts felt like a whirlwind as she stepped back, looking toward Adam. "She has the same allergy you have," she said, her voice carefully measured. Adam's face registered a flicker of emotion, but he quickly masked it. It's probably a coincidence," he replied, his tone evasive. Madison met his gaze, the familiar warmth in his eyes now clouded with a guardedness she didn't recognize. She felt as if she were seeing a stranger, someone who held secrets she couldn't begin to understand. But the girl's health came first, so she stifled her questions, turning her focus back to Lila. "She's stable for now," Madison told Elena, who stood by the doorway, visibly relieved. "But I'll need to follow up with her tomorrow to make sure she's improving." Elena nodded, her face softening as she thanked Madison profusely. But Madison could hardly register the gratitude. Her mind was already whirling with unspoken questions and a gnawing sense of betrayal. As she packed her bag, Adam caught her eye, his expression filled with a pleading look. "Madison, can we talk?" Alone. She wanted to say no, to walk away and let her unanswered questions fester. But the urgency in his voice, the vulnerability in his gaze, compelled her to follow him into the small, dimly lit kitchen. The silence between them was thick with tension as they stood in the narrow kitchen, the faint hum of the refrigerator the only sound. Madison felt her pulse pounding in her ears, her mind struggling to make sense of the emotions swirling within her. Anger, confusion, fear. "Adam," she began, her voice barely concealing the hurt. "Why are you here? And don't tell me it's just about helping someone. This isn't adding up." Adam looked away, his jaw tight. "I know it's hard to understand, Madison, but I was just trying to do the right thing. Lila, her mother was someone I once knew, someone who had no one else to help her." Madison felt the weight of his words, a creeping dread that settled heavily in her chest. "So, you're saying you've been supporting this child, and you didn't think to tell me?" His face softened with regret. "I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I could handle it on my own without dragging you into it." Madison's hands clenched into fists at her sides. "You thought you were protecting me by keeping this from me? Adam, that's not how a marriage works. I deserve to know if you have a connection like this." Adam opened his mouth, but no words came. He looked down, the shadows on his face deepening as he struggled for words. Finally, he met her gaze, his voice low. "I was trying to protect everyone, Madison. I didn't want to burden you with something so complicated." Madison stared at him, feeling as though the ground had shifted beneath her feet. She felt the betrayal and the distance between them settle heavily in the room, turning their once intimate space into something foreign and cold. "Protecting me would have been trusting me," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "Not building a wall of secrets." Without waiting for his response, Madison turned and walked out, her heart pounding with every step. She barely felt the drive home, her mind spinning with a storm of doubts and anger, with the haunting image of Lila's birthmark and the undeniable resemblance she shared with her husband. The next day dawned quietly, sunlight streaming through the blinds as Madison sat at her kitchen table, numb with the weight of her unresolved questions. She stared at her coffee, her mind replaying every detail of the previous day, as if somehow the pieces would suddenly fit together in a way that made sense. But they didn't, and with every hour that passed, her anger only grew, tinged with an ache she couldn't quite name. When Adam returned that evening, she stood in the doorway, waiting for him, her gaze steady and her arms crossed. He entered, his steps hesitant, as if he were approaching a delicate, breakable object. "I know you have questions," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Madison's gaze remained firm. "I don't need questions, Adam. I need answers. And I need to know if I can trust you." He looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and regret. But even as he began to speak, Madison felt the widening chasm between them, a divide filled with secrets that would demand more than words to bridge. The tension between Madison and Adam lingered, filling their home with an uneasy silence. Every conversation felt like it skimmed the surface of a much deeper issue, a wound they were both afraid to address directly. Madison watched Adam as he went about his routine, but the man she saw now felt like a stranger, guarded, withdrawn, carrying a burden she hadn't been invited to share. Madison tried to focus on her work, immersing herself in her patient's needs. But whenever there was a quiet moment, her mind drifted back to Lila, to the striking resemblance between the girl and Adam, to the shared allergy, to the birthmark. The clues haunted her, pulling her into a whirlpool of questions that had no clear answers. That evening, as they sat in silence over dinner, Madison felt her patience fraying. She had held back long enough, but the longer she remained silent, the more the questions gnawed at her. "Adam," she began, her voice breaking the stillness, "I can't keep ignoring what's happening between us. We need to talk about what's really going on. Who is Lila to you?" Adam's fork froze halfway to his mouth. He placed it down carefully, his shoulders slumping slightly as he let out a long breath. "Madison, I know this is hard. I wish I could explain it all to you, but it's not that simple." Madison's gaze hardened. "You keep saying that, but you're not giving me anything to go on. Do you realize how this feels from my perspective? There's a child with your same allergy, a child with a birthmark just like yours, and I had to find out about her by accident." Adam's face softened, a shadow of regret crossing his features. "I understand why you're hurt. But please believe me, Madison, Lila isn't my daughter." Madison took a steadying breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions within her. "Then why keep this from me? Why did you feel the need to hide it?" Adam looked away, his jaw tight. "Because I thought I could handle it on my own. I didn't want to involve you in something so messy." Madison's voice rose despite her attempts to stay calm. "You thought you could protect me by shutting me out? Adam, you're not just dealing with this alone. You're lying to me. That's not protection. That's betrayal." She pushed her chair back and stood, her chest tight with frustration. She could feel her carefully composed exterior beginning to crumble, leaving her raw and vulnerable. Adam's expression wavered as he stood up, reaching out as if to bridge the space between them. "Madison, please. I know I've made mistakes, but I was trying to keep our life together, to protect you from something that could hurt us both." Madison shook her head, unable to hold back the bitterness that colored her words. "The only thing hurting me right now is your refusal to be honest." Without waiting for his response, she left the room, retreating to the quiet sanctuary of her bedroom. She shut the door softly behind her, letting the silence fall around her like a shroud. She sat on the edge of the bed, her mind spinning with questions and doubts. For the first time, She wondered if the life they had built together was truly as solid as she had believed. The following day, Madison reached out to her sister, Claire, someone she had always trusted with her deepest fears. Claire lived just a short drive away, and Madison hoped that seeing her would bring some clarity, or at least some comfort, in the midst of her turmoil. They met at a small cafe near Claire's home. As soon as Madison entered, she felt a wave of relief wash over her at the sight of her sister's warm smile. Claire embraced her, squeezing her tightly, as if sensing the heaviness Madison carried. They ordered their coffee and sat by the window, the morning sunlight casting a soft glow over their table. Madison took a deep breath, then told Claire everything about the strange call, her shock at finding Adam in Lila's home, and the resemblance she couldn't ignore. Claire listened intently, her expression a mix of surprise and concern. When Madison finished, Claire reached across the table, covering Madison's hand with her own. "Maddie, that sounds so painful. I can't imagine what you must be feeling," Claire said gently. "But I know Adam, and I know he loves you. I don't believe he would ever intentionally hurt you." Madison nodded, a tightness in her throat. "I know, but it's hard to trust that right now. Every time I ask for the truth, he just says it's complicated or that he's trying to protect me. But it doesn't feel like protection. It feels like I'm being kept in the dark." Claire gave her hand a comforting squeeze. "Maybe he's struggling to face something difficult. Maybe he's afraid of what the truth might do, not just to you, but to him too." Madison sighed, her gaze drifting to the people passing by outside the cafe. "I just want to understand what's happening, to feel like I'm part of his life again. But right now, it feels like we're strangers." They sat in silence for a moment, the gravity of Madison's situation settling between them. Claire's supportive presence gave her some comfort, but Madison knew that the only person who could bring her true clarity was Adam, and she wasn't sure if he would ever find the courage to tell her the truth. Later that evening, Madison returned home with a newfound determination. She knew that tiptoeing around the issue wasn't going to resolve anything. If she wanted the truth, she would have to confront Adam directly, without letting him evade her questions. When Adam came home, Madison was waiting for him in the living room. He looked tired, the lines around his eyes deeper than usual, as if the weight of his secret had begun to wear him down. He glanced at her, his eyes cautious. "Madison, we should talk," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, her heart pounding as she prepared herself for whatever he might reveal. Adam sat down across from her, his gaze focused on his hands. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice low and hesitant. "Madison, I want to be honest with you. Lila's mother, she was someone I knew years ago, before we were married." Madison's pulse quickened, her mind racing. "What does that mean, Adam? Why didn't you tell me?" He hesitated, his face clouded with regret. "Because I thought I could handle it on my own. Lila's mother passed away, and I promised I would look out for her. I didn't tell you because I thought it would be simpler if I just took care of things myself." Madison's voice trembled as she tried to keep her composure. "So you've been supporting Lila all this time, keeping her a secret from me?" Adam nodded slowly. "I didn't want to bring complications into our life. I wanted to protect our marriage, our family." Madison felt a wave of emotions crashing over her. Anger, hurt, confusion. "Adam, do you hear yourself? You're saying you wanted to protect our marriage by lying to me, by keeping an entire part of your life hidden from me." Adam looked away, unable to meet her gaze. "I know it sounds wrong, but I thought I was sparing you from something painful." Madison's voice hardened, her anger giving her the strength to speak. "You didn't spare me anything, Adam. You only created more pain. And now I don't even know who you are." She stood up, her heart heavy as she turned away. The words she had spoken hung in the air, stark and unyielding. She knew that there was no going back from this moment, that something fundamental between them had been fractured. In the days that followed, Madison and Adam navigated a fragile coexistence, speaking only when necessary, each of them carrying the weight of unspoken words and unresolved pain. Madison felt the emptiness in their home, an echo of the trust that had once filled the spaces between them. At work, Madison threw herself into her responsibilities, hoping that the demands of her patients would distract her from the turmoil in her personal life. But every quiet moment was a reminder of the fracture in her marriage, of the sense of betrayal that simmered beneath the surface. One afternoon, as she was preparing to leave the clinic, she received a call from Elena, Lila's caretaker. "Dr. Kent, I apologize for calling you directly, but I wanted to thank you for your help with Lila the other day," Elena said, her voice warm but edged with anxiety. "She's been asking about you, actually. She seemed very comfortable with you." Madison's heart softened at the thought of Lila's small, trusting face. "I'm glad to hear that she's doing well. If you need anything else, please don't hesitate to reach out." Elena hesitated, then added, "Dr. Kent, I know this isn't my place, but I think Lila could use someone like you in her life. She's been through a lot." Madison's chest tightened, the familiar ache of uncertainty returning. "Thank you, Elena. I appreciate that." As she hung up, Madison felt a strange pull, an urge to see Lila again. Despite the pain that Adam's secrecy had caused, she couldn't ignore the bond she had felt with the little girl, a connection that had stirred something deep within her. That evening, Madison returned home, her mind racing. She found Adam in the kitchen, his shoulders slumped as he prepared a simple dinner. The sight of him, tired, burdened, yet somehow still the man she had once trusted with her whole heart, stirred a mixture of emotions. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "Adam, I want to help Lila. I can't explain it, but I feel connected to her. She's just a child, and if there's any way I can make her life better, I want to." Adam looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. He hesitated, as if he were weighing her words carefully. "Madison, I didn't know you would want to be involved." Madison's gaze held his, her voice steady. "I don't want secrets between us anymore, Adam. If you're going to be part of her life, then so am I. We're in this together, or we're not in it at all." Adam's face softened, a glimmer of hope breaking through the exhaustion in his expression. "Thank you, Madison. That means more than you know." In that moment, Madison realized that this wasn't just a test of their marriage. It was a chance to redefine it. She didn't know where this journey would lead, but she knew that she wanted to face it with honesty, no matter how painful the truth might be. They stood together in the quiet kitchen, a fragile sense of unity slowly growing between them. It wasn't the ending she had envisioned, but perhaps it was the beginning of something new, a commitment to face life's challenges with open hearts, and this time, with no more secrets. Over the next few days, Madison tried to settle into a routine, but her mind kept returning to Lila. The quiet moments at home felt like vast, empty spaces she couldn't fill, her thoughts always drifting back to the little girl she had only just met. When Elena called to ask if Madison might visit Lila for a follow-up, Madison agreed without hesitation. She wasn't sure what compelled her, but the thought of seeing Lila again brought a warmth she hadn't felt in days. Part of her wondered if this connection to Lila was an answer to her questions about Adam, or if it was something she was meant to explore for her own heart's sake. When she arrived at Elena's house, Lila greeted her at the door with a shy but radiant smile. The little girl's wide eyes held a glint of excitement as she reached for Madison's hand, her tiny fingers curling around hers. "Hi, Dr. Madison," she said softly, her voice filled with a trust that Madison hadn't expected. Madison knelt down to Lila's level, feeling a surge of protectiveness for the child. "Hi, Lila. How are you feeling today?" Lila shrugged, a thoughtful expression crossing her face. "Better. I'm not coughing as much." Elena hovered nearby, watching the exchange with a gentle smile. "She's been talking about you, Dr. Kent. You really made an impression." Madison looked up, a blush rising to her cheeks. "She's a very special girl." They moved into the living room, where Lila chatted animatedly, sharing stories from school and her favorite books. Madison listened, drawn to the child's innocence and honesty. It was a simple interaction, but it left Madison feeling a sense of peace she hadn't felt in days, a reminder of the beauty of connection and the healing power of trust. As she left that afternoon, Madison felt a renewed determination. She didn't have all the answers yet, but she knew one thing for certain. She wanted to be a part of Lila's life. Whether Adam was ready or not, Madison felt this was a path she needed to follow. That evening, Madison returned home, her thoughts lingering on her visit with Lila. Adam was already there, sitting at the kitchen table, his gaze distant as he stared out the window. She paused in the doorway, studying him, wondering how much of the man she had known still existed beneath the surface of his guarded expression. He looked up as she entered, offering a small, tentative smile. "How was your day?" Madison hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "I spent some time with Lila today. She's a wonderful child." Adam's face softened, but there was a flicker of something, surprise, perhaps, that crossed his features. "You went to see her?" "Yes, Elena called. She thought it would be good for me to check in," Madison replied, studying Adam's reaction. Adam nodded, his expression unreadable. "I'm glad she has someone like you in her life." Madison's frustration rose, pushing her to confront him. "Adam, I don't want to keep dancing around this. I don't want to be a stranger in your life, pretending everything is fine when it's not. Lila deserves honesty, and so do I." Adam's shoulders slumped, and he let out a long, slow breath. "Madison, I know I've put you in an impossible situation, and I know I haven't been fair. But please understand, I never wanted to hurt you." Madison crossed her arms, steeling herself. "Then stop hiding things from me, Adam. If you care about us, about this family, you'll trust me enough to share the truth." Adam met her gaze, and for a moment, she thought he might open up, that the walls between them might finally come down. But he only looked away, the silence between them growing heavier, until it felt like a barrier neither of them could cross. The next day, Madison found herself increasingly desperate for clarity, needing answers that Adam seemed unwilling or unable to provide. Her mind drifted to Walter, Adam's father, a man she respected and admired deeply. Walter had always been a grounding presence in their lives, a calm voice of reason and wisdom. If anyone could help her understand Adam's silence, it would be Walter. She called him that afternoon, and they arranged to meet at a nearby park. As she walked along the winding paths, the sound of children playing nearby filled her with a bittersweet ache. It reminded her of the life she had dreamed of with Adam, the life she had thought they would one day build together. Walter greeted her warmly, his expression kind but perceptive as he noted the tension in her posture. They found a bench near a cluster of trees, and after a few moments of small talk, Madison took a deep breath, preparing to open up. "Walter, I'm not sure where to begin," she admitted, her voice soft. "But I need your help." Walter nodded, his gaze steady. "Whatever it is, Madison, I'm here for you. What's troubling you?" She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "It's Adam. There's a part of his life that I feel he's kept hidden from me. I met a young girl, Lila, and I can't shake the feeling that she means more to Adam than he's willing to admit." Walter's expression shifted, his brows furrowing slightly. "Lila, I've heard of her, but I didn't know Adam had been in contact with her." Madison's chest tightened. "She's been struggling, and Adam has been supporting her, but he never told me about her. I feel like I've been left out of his life, like he's built walls I can't break through." Walter took her hand, his expression filled with concern. "Madison, I know my son well. He carries a strong sense of responsibility, and sometimes he thinks that means handling things alone. But you're his wife. He should be sharing these burdens with you." Madison felt tears prick at her eyes, her voice breaking slightly. "I want to help him, Walter, but I can't do that if he won't let me in." Walter nodded, his gaze somber. "Perhaps it's time he understands that. I'll talk to him, Madison. I'll remind him that marriage is a partnership, not a one-man mission." As they sat in silence, Madison felt a small glimmer of hope. She wasn't sure if Walter's words would reach Adam, but she knew that whatever happened, she couldn't keep living in this half-light, caught between love and betrayal. That evening, when Madison returned home, she found Adam in his study, papers scattered across his desk. She took a steadying breath, her heart pounding as she prepared to confront him. She couldn't keep pretending anymore, couldn't keep hoping he would open up if she remained patient. "Adam," she said, her voice firm, "we need to talk." He looked up, his face drawn and tired, as if the weight of his secrets had begun to wear him down. "Madison, I know I've let you down. She crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. Then tell me the truth, Adam. No more excuses, no more half answers. I need to know who Lila is to you, and why you felt the need to keep her from me. Adam exhaled, his shoulders slumping. Lila, she's not my daughter, Madison, but she's the daughter of someone I knew a long time ago, someone who left her in my care. Madison's heart ached, the weight of his words settling heavily within her. You've been carrying this alone, without telling me. Why? Adam's voice was barely a whisper. Because I didn't want you to feel the burden of my past mistakes. I thought I could shield you from it, that it would be simpler if I just handled it myself. Madison's anger faded, replaced by a profound sadness. Adam, marriage doesn't work that way. You can't protect me by shutting me out. All you've done is build walls between us. He looked down, his expression filled with regret. I know, and I'm so sorry, Madison. I see now that I should have trusted you. I should have let you in. Madison took a deep breath, her voice soft but resolute. If we're going to move forward, Adam, I need complete honesty. I need to feel like I'm a part of your life again. Adam nodded, his face filled with remorse. I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Madison held his gaze, feeling a mixture of hope and hesitation. She wanted to believe that he was willing to change, to let her in. But trust, once broken, was difficult to rebuild, and she knew it would take more than words to heal the rift between them. As the days passed, Madison and Adam began the slow, tentative process of reconnecting. Madison continued to visit Lila, her heart softening with each interaction as she grew closer to the little girl. She found herself thinking of Lila often, wondering how they could give her the support and love she needed. One afternoon, Madison suggested to Adam that they invite Lila over for dinner. Adam looked at her, surprise flickering across his face, but he nodded, his expression softening with gratitude. The evening was filled with laughter and warmth as they shared a meal together, Lila's bright smile lighting up the room. Madison watched the way Adam interacted with her, the care and tenderness in his gestures, and she felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps, despite the secrets and the hurt, there was a way forward, a path they could walk together, with honesty and love. As they said goodnight to Lila, Madison felt a quiet peace settle within her. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing for certain. She wanted to build a future that included Lila, a future where love and honesty could finally replace the shadows that had lingered for too long. Over the next few weeks, Madison found herself looking forward to her visits with Lila. There was a purity in the child's world, a gentle simplicity that contrasted sharply with the complicated emotions surrounding her relationship with Adam. Madison marveled at how naturally her heart opened to Lila, how each visit felt like rediscovering a long-lost part of herself. One warm Saturday afternoon, Madison took Lila to a nearby park. They strolled hand in hand, Lila's laughter filling the air as they watched the ducks by the pond. Madison glanced down, catching the pure joy on Lila's face, and felt an unexpected warmth in her chest, a feeling she hadn't experienced in months. Dr. Madison, Lila said as they sat on a bench, her small voice barely a whisper. Will you always be around? The question caught Madison off guard. She looked down, seeing the vulnerability in Lila's eyes, and realized how much the little girl had come to trust her. Gently, Madison wrapped an arm around Lila's shoulders. Of course, sweetheart. As long as you need me, I'll be here. Lila nodded, a small smile forming as she leaned against Madison. They sat together in comfortable silence, the warmth of the moment filling Madison with a sense of purpose. For the first time, she felt she was creating something meaningful in Lila's life, something stable and lasting. As they watched the sunlight dance on the water, Madison found herself wondering what the future held for them. She had started this journey seeking answers, but now, more than anything, she wanted to give Lila the security and love she deserved. That evening, after Madison returned home, she found herself in a reflective mood. She sat at the kitchen table, memories of her day, with Lila mingling with her unresolved questions about Adam. It was as though the joy she felt with Lila had opened something within her, a longing for clarity, for closure, for understanding. Adam came in from the garage, his face drawn with fatigue. He paused in the doorway, studying Madison with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Madison," he began quietly, "you seem different tonight. Is everything okay?" Madison hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Adam, spending time with Lila has made me realize something. I can't keep going in circles with these half-truths and secrets. I need to understand where we stand, where I stand in your life." Adam walked over, pulling out a chair and sitting across from her. He looked at her with a raw vulnerability that Madison hadn't seen in years. "I know I've let you down, Madison, and I'm truly sorry. I thought I could protect you, but all I've done is hurt you." She nodded, a faint ache settling in her chest. "Then show me that things can be different. Tell me what's been weighing on you, Adam. I need to hear it all, even if it's difficult." Adam took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly as he began to speak. "Lila's mother, she was someone I knew briefly years ago. I promised her that I'd look out for Lila if anything happened to her. When she passed away unexpectedly, I felt responsible. I knew I couldn't turn my back on her, so I tried to manage everything on my own." Madison listened, her heart aching as she absorbed his words. She could see the strain this secret had put on him, the toll it had taken on both of them. She reached across the table, covering his hand with hers, a gesture of support she hadn't been sure she could offer until now. "Adam, I understand that you felt obligated to help Lila, but why didn't you trust me with this? Why shut me out?" He met her gaze, a mixture of regret and sorrow in his eyes. "I was afraid, Madison, afraid that if you knew, it would change everything between us. I thought, maybe if I kept it separate, I could protect what we had." Madison's voice softened, her anger giving way to a quiet determination. "Adam, I can handle the truth. What I can't handle is feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. If we're going to move forward, you have to let me in. No more walls, no more hiding." He nodded, squeezing her hand. "I promise, Madison. From now on, no more secrets. I want to rebuild what we've lost." Madison offered a small, tentative smile. She knew that forgiveness wouldn't come easily, that rebuilding trust would take time and effort. But for the first time, she saw a glimmer of hope, a possibility that they could face the future together, side by side. As Madison continued to process Adam's revelation, she felt a mixture of relief and lingering unease. The burden of secrecy had been lifted, but the impact of those hidden years lingered like an invisible weight. Madison wondered if their marriage could withstand the fractures left behind, and if she had the strength to truly forgive. Her uncertainty grew one evening when she received a call from Walter. He sounded unusually serious, his normally warm voice carrying an edge of tension. "Madison," he began slowly, "I know you and Adam have been going through a lot. I just wanted you to know that you're not alone in this. We're all family, and we'll get through it together." Madison felt a flicker of surprise. Walter had always been supportive, but his words carried an unusual depth, as though he, too, was shouldering a hidden burden. She couldn't help but wonder if Walter knew more than he let on, if he had been aware of Adam's secret all along. "Thank you, Walter. That means a lot," Madison replied, her voice filled with quiet gratitude. "Sometimes it's hard to see a way forward." Walter hesitated, and Madison sensed there was more he wanted to say. "I understand, Madison. But remember, trust takes time to rebuild. Just know that I'm here for both of you." After they hung up, Madison sat in the silence, pondering Walter's words. She realized that the journey to healing was more complex than she had anticipated, that trust was not something that could be mended with a single conversation. She would have to rebuild her faith in Adam one step at a time, with patience and courage. In the days that followed, Madison and Adam took small steps toward reconnecting. They spent quiet evenings together, talking about the dreams they had once shared, the future they had envisioned. Madison sensed a tentative openness in Adam, a willingness to share his burdens that hadn't been there before. One evening, as they prepared dinner together, Adam reached for her hand, his gaze filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Madison, for staying, for giving us a chance to heal." She looked into his eyes, feeling the faint stirrings of the love they had once shared. "It's going to take time, Adam, but I'm willing to try if you are." They cooked in comfortable silence, finding solace in the simple act of being together. Madison felt the walls around her heart begin to soften, as though the wounds that had once seemed insurmountable were beginning to fade, leaving space for hope to grow. That night, as they sat together on the couch, Madison felt a sense of peace settle within her. It wasn't the same as before, but it was a start, a fragile path forward that they would walk together, one day at a time. Madison continued to visit Lila, finding joy in the girl's infectious laughter and innocent questions. Lila's presence brought light into Madison's life, a sense of purpose that helped her navigate the complexities of her marriage. With each visit, Madison felt her bond with Lila deepen, as though the little girl had woven herself into the fabric of her heart. One afternoon, as they sat on the porch reading a story, Lila looked up, her eyes filled with a quiet vulnerability. "Dr. Madison," she said softly, "am I really part of your family?" Madison felt a lump rise in her throat. She reached over, brushing a strand of hair from Lila's face. "Yes, Lila, you're part of my family, and you always will be." Lila smiled, her face lighting up with joy. In that moment, Madison knew that her connection to Lila was more than just a sense of responsibility. It was a bond forged by love and trust, a commitment that went beyond words. As they sat together, Madison realized that her life had taken a path she hadn't expected. Her heart had expanded to include Lila, to embrace a future she hadn't planned for, but now couldn't imagine living without. One evening, as Madison and Adam sat together in the quiet of their living room, Adam reached for her hand, his gaze filled with quiet determination. "Madison, I know I've put you through so much," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But I want to be a better husband, a better partner. I want us to build a life together that we can both be proud of." Madison squeezed his hand, feeling a sense of calm settle within her. "I want that too, Adam. But we have to be honest with each other, even when it's hard." He nodded, his expression filled with sincerity. "I promise, Madison. No more secrets. From now on, we face everything together." They sat in comfortable silence, feeling the first fragile tendrils of trust begin to rebuild. It was a long road ahead, but for the first time, Madison felt a genuine sense of hope, a belief that they could find their way back to each other, stronger and more resilient than before. As they held each other, Madison felt the weight of the past begin to lift, replaced by a quiet determination to build a future filled with honesty, love, and mutual respect. It wasn't the end of their journey, but it was a new beginning, one she was ready to embrace, with Adam and Lila by her side. The next few weeks were a delicate balance between hope and hesitation for Madison. Though Adam had promised no more secrets, she felt an invisible wall between them, a barrier built from years of unspoken fears and the weight of his past. He was trying more open conversations, time together with Lila, shared evenings without the silence that had once separated them. But Madison knew that healing was not a straight path. It was a winding road that took them through both progress and painful setbacks. One evening, as Madison and Adam walked together after dinner, Adam hesitated, his voice faltering as he spoke. "Madison, I've been thinking, I want to be more open with you, but I still feel like there's something holding us back." Madison nodded, sensing the heaviness in his tone. "I know. I feel it too. But Adam, I need you to understand, I'm willing to go through the hard parts with you. I just need to know we're both committed to being honest, even when it's uncomfortable." Adam sighed, his face shadowed with regret. "I know I've asked too much of you, but I'm trying, Madison. I'm trying to let go of the fear that we'll lose everything if I'm not perfect." Madison placed a hand on his arm, her voice soft. "Adam, perfection isn't what I need. I need you, just you, flaws and all." They walked in silence, the stars above casting a faint glow over the neighborhood. Madison felt a fragile sense of hope, a feeling that despite their scars, they were moving forward. But in the back of her mind, there remained a small voice, a whisper of doubt that lingered, reminding her that trust, once broken, was hard to restore. The days that followed brought more tension to the surface. Madison was torn between her need for transparency and her desire to let Adam have the space he needed to fully open up. Her growing closeness with Lila, however, provided a welcome respite, a space of innocence and laughter that softened the challenges she faced at home. One evening, as she tucked Lila in, the little girl looked up at her with wide, searching eyes. "Dr. Madison, are you going to be here for a long time? Like forever?" Madison's heart swelled with emotion. She hadn't expected Lila to voice such a question, but it only confirmed the depth of the bond they had formed. She knelt beside the bed, brushing a stray hair from Lila's face. "Yes, sweetheart. I'll be here as long as you need me." Lila smiled, a small look of relief passing over her face as she settled under the blankets. In that moment, Madison felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that her connection to Lila was not just something she stumbled into. It was something she was meant to have. And as she looked down at the girl, Madison realized that Lila was a part of her life now, a permanent fixture she was determined to protect and cherish. That night, Madison returned home to find Adam waiting for her, his expression shadowed and distant. He had barely touched dinner, and his shoulders were slumped, as if the weight of the secrets he had carried for so long had finally become unbearable. "Adam," she began gently, sensing the turmoil beneath his silence. "Is there something you need to tell me?" He looked up, his eyes filled with sorrow. "Madison, I tried to keep everything together, to protect you, Lila, and myself from the mess of my past. But I feel like I'm losing control, like the harder I try, the further I fall." She reached for his hand, her gaze steady. "You don't have to do this alone. We're in this together, Adam. Whatever it is, you can share it with me." He hesitated, his hand tightening around hers. "There are things I still haven't told you, Madison. Things that feel impossible to share." Madison's heart ached, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Adam, I need honesty. I know it's hard, but if we're going to move forward, we need to let go of the fear." Adam exhaled, his gaze dropping to the floor. "I know, but sometimes it feels like I've kept things hidden for so long that I don't even know where to begin." Madison felt a flicker of frustration, a reminder of the emotional toll his silence had taken. She wanted to believe in his intentions, to trust that he was doing his best. But as the silence stretched between them, she felt the weight of his words settle heavily in her chest. She realized that she couldn't force him to be ready. He would have to choose to be honest in his own time, and she would have to decide if she could wait for him. The next day, Madison decided to visit Walter again, seeking the reassurance she could no longer find at home. They met at a coffee shop, and she shared her ongoing struggle with Adam's guardedness, her voice wavering with frustration and hurt. "Walter, I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle," she confessed. "I've given him chance after chance to open up, but he just won't." Walter placed a comforting hand over hers, his expression somber. "Madison, I know it's not easy. Adam has always been the kind to carry burdens alone, but he loves you deeply. I've seen the way he looks at you, and I know he wants to be the man you deserve." Madison looked down, the weight of Walter's words settling heavily in her mind. "But love isn't enough, is it? Not without trust." Walter sighed, his face filled with empathy. "Trust is built over time, Madison. But it sounds like you both need to reach a place of mutual understanding. If you're willing, I believe you can get there." Madison nodded, her heart heavy, but filled with a quiet resolve. She knew that the journey ahead would be hard, that it would take patience and a willingness to let go of past wounds. But she was ready to try, to face the challenges with an open heart. That evening, Madison found Adam in the study, sorting through a stack of papers with a look of intense concentration. She entered quietly, feeling the tension radiating from him. He looked up, his expression softening when he saw her. "Madison," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, "I know I've made mistakes, but I want to start making things right." She took a deep breath, her voice gentle but firm. "Then let's start tonight, Adam. Whatever it is you're holding back, whatever fears you're carrying, tell me. I need to understand." Adam's face filled with a mixture of apprehension and vulnerability. He closed his eyes, his hands trembling slightly as he spoke. "There's more to Lila's story than I let on. Her mother, She was someone I knew during a time when I wasn't sure of who I was or what I wanted. She passed unexpectedly, and I felt responsible for Lila's future. Madison felt a pang of empathy, her heart softening as she listened. Adam, I can see that you did what you thought was right, but I need to know that you trust me enough to share these burdens. He nodded, his voice thick with emotion. I do trust you, Madison. I was afraid that telling you everything would change the way you saw me. She reached for his hand, her gaze steady. Nothing you say could change how I feel about you. But we can't keep pretending that secrets will protect us. We need to be open, even when it's hard. Adam looked at her, the walls around his heart beginning to crumble. In that moment, Madison felt a glimmer of hope, a belief that they could rebuild, not on a foundation of secrecy, but one of mutual understanding. The days that followed were marked by a gentle, tentative peace. Madison and Adam spent more time together, finding solace in the quiet moments they had once taken for granted. They continued to visit Lila, sharing meals and laughter that felt like balm to their wounded hearts. One afternoon, as they sat on the porch watching Lila play in the yard, Adam took Madison's hand, his gaze filled with gratitude. Thank you, Madison, for giving us a second chance. She looked at him, her heart swelling with love. We're in this together, Adam. I believe in us. They shared a quiet moment, a sense of peace settling between them. Though the path ahead was still uncertain, Madison knew that they were stronger now, bound by a love that had been tested, scarred, and ultimately renewed. As they sat together, watching Lila's laughter light up the evening, Madison felt a quiet contentment. It wasn't the end of their journey, but it was a beginning, a fragile, hopeful start that they would nurture together. Days passed in a delicate truce, but Madison couldn't shake the feeling that she was still grasping at shadows. She wanted to believe in Adam's promises, yet the pieces didn't quite fit. Something lingered, hidden beneath the surface, a thread that connected Adam's guardedness, Lila's vulnerability, and the unsettling sense of secrets yet untold. One evening, Madison found herself in Lila's room as the little girl slept, her breathing soft and steady. She gazed at Lila's peaceful expression, feeling a mixture of love and sorrow. A part of her longed to protect this child, to give her a stable life free from the complications that seemed to surround them. But Madison also felt a gnawing uncertainty, a fear that she couldn't ignore. After a few moments, she returned to the living room where Adam sat reading. She hesitated, watching him, feeling the weight of her unsaid questions. Finally, she sat beside him, drawing a steady breath. Adam, I can't keep pretending I'm okay with all of this, she said softly. Every time I try to move forward, I feel like there's something else, something you're not telling me. Adam set down his book, his face shadowed with worry. Madison, I've told you everything I can. I know I've made it hard for you to trust me, but I'm doing my best to be honest. Madison's voice wavered, the emotions she'd held back finally breaking through. I want to believe that, but how can I when it feels like there's a part of you that's still out of reach? Adam looked away, his face clouded with regret. I don't know how to make it right, Madison. I don't know how to erase the mistakes I made. They sat in silence, the weight of his words pressing down on them both. Madison realized that while she longed to trust him, it would take more than time and promises. It would take a willingness to confront the pain they both carried, to unravel the tangled threads of their past. The following days were strained, each moment between Madison and Adam marked by a tension neither knew how to ease. Madison poured herself into her work, finding solace in the routines of patient care and the quiet satisfaction of helping others. But at home, the air felt heavy, as if they were waiting for something to break. One afternoon, Madison received a call from Claire, who had sensed her sister's distress and wanted to check in. They met at a cafe, and as they sipped their coffee, Madison confided in Claire, sharing her fears and frustrations. I feel like I'm caught between love and doubt, Madison admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I want to trust him, but every time I think I understand, something pulls me back. Claire listened, her expression empathetic. Maddie, I can't pretend to know what you're going through. But maybe the answers aren't about trust alone. Maybe they're about letting go of the need for certainty and accepting that love sometimes means facing the unknown. Madison considered her sister's words, feeling a glimmer of understanding. Perhaps she had been clinging to the idea of certainty, believing that trust meant knowing every detail, every secret. But maybe true trust was about accepting the unknown, about finding peace within the complexities of love. She left the cafe with a newfound sense of clarity, though she knew it wouldn't be easy to put it into practice. She would need to make peace with her doubts, to embrace the journey with Adam, even if it led through shadows. That evening, Madison returned home with a quiet resolve. She found Adam in the kitchen, preparing dinner, his expression distant as he chopped vegetables. She moved to stand beside him, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "Adam," she began, her voice calm but steady, "I know we've both been carrying a lot, but I want us to find a way to move forward, to rebuild what we've lost." He looked at her, relief flickering in his eyes. "I want that too, Madison. I don't want to lose you. I don't want us to keep living like this, with half-truths and walls between us." Madison nodded, her hand tightening around his. "Then let's make a promise. To be honest with each other, no matter what. To accept that we may not have all the answers, but that we'll face the unknown together." Adam's face softened, his gaze filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Madison. I know I've hurt you, and I know it will take time. But I'm here. I'm ready to work through this, whatever it takes." They embraced, feeling a fragile sense of unity growing between them. Madison knew they still had a long road ahead, but for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope, a belief that love, in its purest form, was worth fighting for. In the weeks that followed, Madison and Adam committed to their promise, opening up to each other in ways they hadn't before. They shared their fears, their hopes, and the small moments that had once been overshadowed by silence. Madison felt herself softening, her heart beginning to heal as she let go of her need for certainty. Their relationship with Lila blossomed as well, with weekends spent at parks, story times, and family dinners filled with laughter. Madison marveled at how naturally the girl fit into their lives, as though she had been meant to be there all along. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Lila nestled between them. Madison felt a sense of peace settle over her. She looked at Adam, her heart swelling with gratitude. "We've come so far," she whispered, her voice filled with quiet wonder. Adam reached for her hand, his expression soft. "And I'm grateful every day for you, Madison, for your patience, your strength, and your love." They sat together, holding hands, feeling the quiet joy of a new beginning. A fragile but hopeful step forward into the life they were building, one that included not only each other but Lila as well. As Madison's heart opened, she found herself embracing both the beauty and the fragility of her new family. But just as she felt peace settling in, an unexpected letter arrived, dredging up memories she had thought were buried. It was from someone she hadn't heard from in years, a friend from her college days, someone who had known Adam before they had met. The letter was brief, but its words carried weight. "Madison, I'm reaching out because I need to tell you something about Adam's past. It's something I've carried for years, and I can't keep it to myself any longer." Madison's heart raced as she read the letter, the doubts she had fought to let go of returning with a vengeance. She felt torn, her loyalty to Adam pitted against the voice within her that demanded honesty, clarity, answers. When Adam returned home that evening, she debated whether to confront him, to share the letter, and ask for the truth. But as she looked into his eyes, filled with love and trust, she hesitated, unsure of how much more her heart could bear. For the first time in weeks, Madison felt the walls rise around her again, a defense against the uncertainty that seemed woven into her life with Adam. She clutched the letter in her hands, wondering if their journey toward trust would survive the shadows that still lingered, or if this new revelation would be the final fracture that broke them. Over the next few days, Madison wrestled with her decision, the weight of the letter heavy in her mind. She knew that confronting Adam would reopen old wounds, that it would force them to face the past with a clarity neither of them might be ready for. But she also knew that if they were to move forward, They couldn't do so with half-truths and hidden fears. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Madison took a steadying breath, her heart pounding as she held out the letter. "Adam, I received this in the mail," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I haven't read all of it, but I think we need to talk about whatever it contains, together." Adam's face paled as he took the letter, his hands trembling. He read it in silence, his expression growing darker with each word. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with regret. "Madison, there are things I haven't told you, things I thought I could leave behind. But maybe it's time to face them." She nodded, her gaze unwavering. "I want to know, Adam. I want to know everything, even if it's painful. I need the truth." Adam took a deep breath, his voice breaking as he began to speak. He shared the parts of his past he had kept hidden, the mistakes he had made, the fears that had driven him to hide. Madison listened, her heart aching, but as he spoke, she felt a strange sense of relief, the knowledge that at last they were confronting the shadows together. When he finished, they sat in silence, the weight of his words settling between them. Madison felt a mixture of hurt and empathy, a realization that their journey was far from over. But she also knew that they had taken a necessary step, that facing the past was the only way to embrace a future built on honesty. In the days that followed, Madison and Adam moved forward with a renewed sense of purpose. They committed to healing not only the wounds between them, but the scars left by their pasts. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, times when the pain resurfaced. But with each step, Madison felt her love for Adam deepen, rooted not in perfection, but in resilience. Their relationship with Lila flourished as well. They dedicated weekends to family activities, trips to the zoo, bedtime stories, and shared meals that felt like the foundation of a new, united family. Madison marveled at the way Lila had become a central part of their lives, a source of joy that brought them closer, even as they worked through the challenges of their marriage. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Madison took Adam's hand, her heart filled with gratitude. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" she said softly. Adam nodded, his eyes filled with warmth. "We have, and I wouldn't trade a single moment of it." In that quiet moment, Madison knew that they were finally free of the shadows that had once haunted them. They had faced the past, embraced the unknown, and emerged with a love that was stronger and more resilient than she had ever imagined. As they held each other, Madison felt a sense of peace settle over her, a belief that they were ready to face the future, together, as a family. Madison and Adam entered a new phase of their life together, their days filled with both quiet moments and the joys of rebuilding. Each evening, they spent time talking openly about their plans and dreams, the life they wanted to build for themselves and for Lila. For the first time in months, Madison felt a calm contentment as their shared vision of the future began to unfold. One Saturday, they decided to start a new family tradition, weekly outings with Lila to explore the city. They visited museums, parks, and local events, each adventure a celebration of their new beginning. Madison marveled at the joy on Lila's face, her bright eyes filled with wonder as she took in the world around her. It was as if they were rediscovering life together, creating memories they could carry forward into the future. Adam took Madison's hand as they watched Lila chase butterflies in a nearby garden, a soft smile on his face. "I can't believe how lucky we are to have her," he murmured, his gaze filled with warmth. Madison nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "She's brought us closer than I ever thought possible. She's our hope, our reason to keep moving forward." They shared a quiet moment, the weight of their past slipping away as they embraced the life they had now, a life defined by love, trust, and a commitment to each other. As their bond deepened, Madison and Adam began to discuss their roles in the community. They wanted to give back, to help others find the strength to overcome their own struggles. Madison approached Walter, Adam's father, with an idea to expand the mentorship program he had started at the church. She envisioned a support group for families and individuals facing difficult situations, a place where they could find encouragement and share their stories in a safe, welcoming space. Walter embraced the idea wholeheartedly, and together they organized the first meeting, inviting people from the church and surrounding community. Madison watched as attendees opened up, sharing their struggles and triumphs, their hopes and fears. She saw the relief in their faces, the sense of belonging that came from knowing they weren't alone. As she shared her own story with the group, Madison felt a deep sense of healing, a recognition that her journey, though painful, had shaped her into a stronger, more compassionate person. Adam joined her at the front of the room, his hands steadying hers as they spoke about the importance of resilience and love in the face of adversity. In that moment, Madison realized that they had not only healed themselves, but were helping to heal others, creating a ripple effect that would extend far beyond their own lives. The mentorship program and support group became a meaningful part of their lives, and Lila often accompanied them to events, her presence bringing a lightness that touched everyone in the room. She had become a beloved figure within the community, known for her kindness and infectious laughter. Madison felt a profound sense of joy watching Lila grow, knowing that the love and support they had created would help her thrive. One evening, as they returned home from an event, Lila looked up at Madison, her eyes filled with curiosity. "Dr. Madison, can I call you Mom? I mean, if that's okay with you." Madison's heart swelled with emotion, her vision blurring as tears gathered in her eyes. She knelt down, pulling Lila into a tight embrace. "Yes, Lila, I would love that more than anything." Lila grinned, her face lighting up with pure joy. In that moment, Madison knew that the love they had nurtured was not bound by blood, but by the commitment and care they had chosen to give each other. As Madison and Adam tucked Lila into bed that night, they felt a sense of unity that went beyond words, a family bound not only by love, but by the journey they had taken together, the resilience they had shown, and the hope they had found in each other. As Lila's school year came to an end, Madison and Adam attended her kindergarten graduation, their hearts swelling with pride as she received her certificate. Madison watched as Lila beamed, waving at them from the stage, her face filled with excitement. The simplicity of the moment held a deep meaning for Madison, a reminder of all they had overcome to reach this point. After the ceremony, they hosted a small gathering at their home, inviting friends and family to celebrate Lila's milestone. Madison and Adam marveled at how their house had transformed from a place of tension and secrets into a warm, welcoming space, filled with laughter and the promise of new beginnings. As the guests left, Madison sat on the porch with Adam, watching the sunset as the day ended. She rested her head on his shoulder, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. "We did it," she whispered, her voice filled with quiet wonder. "We've created something beautiful." Adam wrapped his arm around her, his gaze soft. "And I couldn't have done it without you. You taught me what it means to love, to forgive, and to build something worth fighting for." They sat together in comfortable silence, the promise of their future stretching before them, a journey they were ready to face, together as a family. One autumn morning, Madison felt a wave of nausea that caught her off guard. She brushed it off as fatigue from her busy schedule, but as the days passed, the feeling persisted. Finally, at Adam's gentle insistence, she decided to take a pregnancy test. She waited anxiously for the results, her heart pounding as she thought of the possibility of adding to their family. When the test confirmed her suspicion, Madison felt a surge of joy and disbelief. She couldn't wait to share the news with Adam and Lila, to embrace the next chapter of their lives. That evening, she surprised Adam with a small gift box containing the positive test. As he opened it, his face lit up, a mixture of astonishment and excitement. He pulled her into an embrace, his voice filled with wonder. "We're going to have a baby," he murmured, his eyes shining with joy. "I can't believe it." Madison laughed, her own joy bubbling over. "I can't either, but I know that this is exactly where we're meant to be." When they shared the news with Lila, her face lit up with excitement. She hugged Madison tightly, her small arms wrapping around her with a warmth that filled Madison's heart. "I'm going to be a big sister," Lila exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. "I'll help take care of the baby, I promise." As they embraced, Madison felt a profound sense of gratitude. Their family had been born from love and resilience, a testament to the strength they had found in each other. Now, with a new life on the way, they were ready to face the future with open hearts and unwavering commitment. The months that followed were filled with anticipation and joy as they prepared for the arrival of their new baby. Madison and Adam spent hours setting up the nursery, choosing colors, and filling it with little details that reflected the warmth of their family. Lila was a constant presence, helping them paint the walls, arranging stuffed animals, and picking out toys for her future sibling. Her excitement was contagious, filling their home with laughter and light. One evening, as they sat together in the nursery, Lila curled up beside Madison, her head resting on her shoulder. "Mom," Lila whispered, her voice filled with curiosity, "will the baby know how much we love them?" Madison smiled, wrapping her arm around Lila. "Yes, sweetheart. Our love is what makes us a family. And that love will be there for the baby, just like it's there for you." As she spoke, Madison felt a sense of peace settle over her. They had faced their struggles, navigated the pain of the past, and emerged stronger. Their family, once built on fragile foundations, was now held together by love, honesty, and the promise of a future they had chosen to create. When the day finally came, Madison and Adam welcomed their baby, a healthy, beautiful boy, into the world. Madison held him close, marveling at the tiny fingers wrapped around hers, the softness of his skin, the way he nestled against her, as if he had always belonged. Adam stood beside her, his face filled with awe as he watched their son. They shared a quiet moment, their hearts full as they embraced the new life they had created together. When Lila entered the room, she approached the baby with wide eyes, her expression filled with wonder. She reached out, gently touching his tiny hand, a smile spreading across her face. "Hi, little brother," she whispered, her voice soft. "I'm your big sister. I'll always be here for you." Madison's heart swelled with pride as she watched Lila, feeling the strength of the love that bound them all together. They were a family, not defined by blood, but by the choices they had made to support, protect, and love one another. As they held each other, Madison knew that their journey had been worth every struggle, every tear, and every moment of doubt. They had built something beautiful, a family grounded in love, resilience, and the promise of new beginnings. The first few months with their new baby brought both joy and sleepless nights for Madison and Adam, but they embraced every moment, grateful for the life they had built. They had named their son Owen, a name that symbolized strength and unity, qualities they wanted to instill in him from the start. Lila quickly took on the role of big sister with enthusiasm, eager to help with every part of Owen's care. She adored her little brother, spending hours beside his crib, singing lullabies she made up on the spot, and holding his tiny hands as he drifted off to sleep. Madison and Adam watched their children together, filled with a quiet sense of pride as they saw Lila's compassion and Owen's curiosity blossom. One evening, as Madison rocked Owen to sleep in the nursery, Adam entered quietly, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You look like you were made for this," he murmured, his voice filled with affection. Madison smiled, brushing a hand over Owen's soft hair. "I think we both were. I can't imagine my life without them, without you." Adam knelt beside her, resting his hand over hers. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" She nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Yes, and I wouldn't change a thing. This, our family, is everything I dreamed of." As they held each other, Madison felt a peace she hadn't known before. Their journey hadn't been easy, but they had built a life filled with love, a life defined not by perfection, but by the strength they had found in one another. As their lives settled into a comfortable rhythm, Madison and Adam continued their work with Walter's mentorship program and support group. They had come to understand the value of giving back, of using their own experiences to support others who were navigating difficult times. Their community efforts soon took on a life of their own, with more people attending each meeting, eager to share their stories and find encouragement. Madison felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing they had created a space for others to heal and grow. She saw people begin to form connections, friendships that extended beyond the meetings and provided a network of support for those who had once felt alone. One evening, after a particularly moving session, Walter approached Madison and Adam, his face alight with pride. "You both have turned this program into something truly special," he said, his voice warm. "Seeing the impact you're making, it reminds me of why I started this journey all those years ago." Madison felt her heart swell, a sense of purpose grounding her. "Thank you, Walter. This program has helped us as much as it's helped others. We've learned that we're stronger together, that by opening up, we all heal a little faster." Adam nodded, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "This community means so much to us, and I think it's brought us closer too, knowing we're part of something bigger than ourselves." As they locked up the building and headed home that night, Madison felt a deep satisfaction, a sense that their lives were not only on the right path, but were helping others find their own paths too. It was a legacy she was proud to be part of, a testament to the resilience they had discovered within themselves. Months passed, and soon it was time for Lila's first school play, a milestone that had the whole family excited. Madison and Adam sat in the front row of the auditorium, eagerly waiting for Lila to take the stage. They had spent countless hours helping her memorize lines, practicing her expressions and cheering her on, and now they were about to watch her shine. As the curtains opened and Lila appeared, Madison felt a surge of pride. She watched Lila deliver her lines with confidence, her smile lighting up the stage. It was clear she had found joy in performing, and Madison felt her heart swell as she saw her daughter's growth, the strength and resilience that had blossomed in her. When the play ended, Lila ran into Madison's arms, her eyes shining with excitement. "Did you see me, Mom? Did you see?" Madison hugged her tightly, laughing with joy. "You were amazing, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." Adam knelt beside them, placing a gentle hand on Lila's shoulder. "You did great, Lila. You were the star of the show." Lila beamed, her face glowing with happiness. In that moment, Madison felt the fullness of their journey, the beauty of a family united by love, shared experiences, and the promise of new beginnings. As the seasons changed, Madison and Adam found joy in celebrating each small milestone. Lila's achievements in school, Owen's first steps, the quiet evenings spent together as a family. Each moment felt like a triumph, a reminder of how far they had come and the life they had built together. One autumn afternoon, they decided to host a gathering at their home to celebrate Owen's first birthday. Friends, family, and neighbors gathered in their backyard, the air filled with laughter and warmth. Madison watched as Walter and Lila played with Owen, their shared laughter echoing across the yard. Adam joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders as they watched the scene unfold. "Look at what we've created," he murmured, his voice filled with awe. "This life, it's everything I ever wanted." Madison smiled, leaning into him. "It's more than I ever dreamed of. And it's because of all we've been through, every challenge, every moment of doubt. We wouldn't be here without it." As they looked out over their loved ones, Madison felt a sense of completion, a certainty that they were exactly where they were meant to be. Their home was no longer just a house. It was a place filled with love, laughter, and the warmth of family. On a quiet winter evening, Madison and Adam sat together by the fireplace, the warmth of the flames casting a soft glow over the room. Lila and Owen were asleep, the house wrapped in silence as they shared a moment of reflection. "Do you ever think about where we started?" Adam asked, his gaze thoughtful as he looked at Madison. She nodded, her voice soft. "I do. Sometimes it feels like it was a lifetime ago, but other times it feels like just yesterday." Adam reached for her hand, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Madison, for staying, for believing in us, even when it was hard." Madison smiled, her heart swelling with love. "I stayed because I saw something worth fighting for, and I'd do it all again, without a second thought." They sat in silence, the memories of their journey settling around them like a comforting blanket. They had faced heartbreak, overcome obstacles, and found a way to build something beautiful from the broken pieces of their past. Their story wasn't one of perfection, but one of resilience, growth, and the power of love. The years passed, and Madison and Adam watched their family grow, each moment a testament to the love they had nurtured. Lila continued to blossom, her kindness and compassion shaping her into a young woman Madison admired deeply. Owen, too, grew with each passing day, his curiosity and warmth a reflection of the life they had built. One evening, as they prepared for dinner, Lila approached Madison, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Mom, do you think we'll always be this close?" Madison wrapped an arm around her, smiling. "Yes, Lila, because love doesn't go away. It stays with us, no matter where life takes us." Lila nodded, her face filled with understanding. Madison felt a surge of pride, knowing that they had instilled values of love and resilience in their children, values that would guide them through life. As they gathered around the table that night, Madison felt a sense of completion, a realization that they had created something truly special, a family built on love, commitment, and the unbreakable bond they had formed through years of shared experiences. Years later, as Madison looked back on their journey, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She had learned that life was not about avoiding pain, but about embracing it, about finding the strength to rebuild, to forgive, and to create something meaningful from the challenges they had faced. Their family continued to thrive, a legacy of love that would carry on through generations. Lila had grown into a compassionate young woman, pursuing her dreams with the confidence and support of her family. Owen, too, had blossomed, his joyful spirit a reminder of the love that had nurtured him from the start. Madison and Adam remained active in their community, their mentorship program providing guidance and hope to countless families. Together, they had created a life that was not only fulfilling but impactful, a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the strength of family. As Madison reflected on their journey, she knew that every moment, the joy, the heartache, the struggles, and the triumphs, had brought them to this point. They had built a family rooted in love, a legacy that would live on through their children, their community, and the lives they had touched. And in that knowledge, Madison felt a profound peace, a belief that they had not only found their way back to each other, but had created something beautiful, something lasting, something that would endure long after they were gone. As we close Madison and Adam's journey, let their story remind us of the power of love, resilience, and the family bonds that help us rise above life's challenges. If you enjoyed this story and want to experience more tales of hope, growth, and the strength that brings people together, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to continue sharing stories that inspire and uplift. Thank you for being part of our storytelling community, and stay tuned for more amazing stories coming your way.